Hello, my name is Jack Perschke, co-founder and CEO of Greatwave AI. Our business has built over 1,000 generative AI agents and consumed over 100 million tokens. But those two stats in themselves don't mean much. The difference with us is that I can find each of those agents through a single system. I can monitor and compare performance of each of my agents. I can show detailed audit logs of every query, response, and retrieved chunk. And more importantly than all of that, I can connect them together in teams to complete broad or complex tasks. In short, I have generative AI in which I have trust and control. Now, if that sounds interesting, please keep watching, as in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how you can build the same. Using our ready-made components will make that 1,000 times easier. But even if you're committed to a completely self-built future, it'll be worth watching as we talk through what works and what doesn't. So let's start with some examples of agents that we've built to trigger some thoughts and help you as you think about applying generative AI in your business. The first agent that I'm about to show you surfaces via Slack. And just as a quick sidebar, our view is that generative AI should be deployed where the problem is. So if, as in this case, your team collaborate on bids using Slack, that's where you want the agent to be, not in some additional system with all the complexities of new logins, etc. Anyway, the task of this agent is to write responses for a very specific type of public sector bid called DOS Stage 1 bids. DOS bids require 100-word answers in a standard format, so it would be silly to try and shoehorn in an agent that can also write 5,000-word treaties to solve this problem. Much better to have something specific for the task. So when I ask it to tell me about a time that we've mobilized a team to deliver citizen-facing apps using agile development methodologies, it comes back with two options for answers that have been developed using a bank of past tender documents. Right. Note the precision and the quality of these answers. These are essentially ready to go because we've built the most precise agent possible, trained on the right data and using the right large language model. And we have focused on quality from the start. Now, that agent surfaced via Slack, and we've built agents that surface via Teams, WhatsApp, Outlook, or wherever. But some agents will require a bespoke front end. This next agent was built as a demo for a government client. Their challenge is that they want to encourage UK businesses to export, but the guidance they publish has to cover every type of business, from farmers to lawyers. So, as you can imagine, it's vast, well over 1,000 web pages with hundreds of PDF documents connected to them. Most businesses thinking about exporting take one look at all this information and run a mile. So the challenge was, is there a way of only surfacing the information that relates to the business making the inquiry? Right, look here, as I engage as a chicken farmer interested in exporting eggs, I just have to tell the agent some key bits about my business, and it scours thousands of pages of information and surfaces only the summaries and links that relate to me. If I have follow-on questions, I ask this additional agent that outputs in a more traditional chatbot format. The key points from that demo is that GenAI can be used as a navigation tool as well as a generation tool. It can output in any format, from tables to JSON, and it's often good to start connecting agents together to support users in multiple ways. So let's touch on this multi-agent workflow a little more. It is an incredibly current area of excitement in the technology community, and we think it holds the key to most of the challenges you're facing. This next agent I'm going to show you surfaces via our in-house front end. Surfacing it in this way is mainly used by us for internal use cases and by our clients for immediate testing of agents. The challenge we have here is wanting to compare incoming legal documents against our own standard version. In this case, it's non-disclosure agreements. We get sent lots of them, and we'd like an agent to read them and flag any significant divergence from our base case. To do that effectively, there are 3 steps. First, our base case NDA needs examining, with summaries of the key sections being extracted. Next, the same process has to happen with the incoming NDA. And then, as a third step, these 2 extracts need to be compared and presented against each other. You can see here that once uploaded, I simply type go, and then the multi-agent flow kicks in, stepping through the process flow we set out, and I'm presented with a really clear and effective summary of the incoming NDA against our standard version. It is, of course, possible to build this kind of agent using complex prompts, but we've found that it quickly loses quality and misses key areas of detail. The nature of generative AI retrieval is such that if a specific subject, like IP, is mentioned many times in one of the NDAs, but only once in the other, that single reference may well get ignored by the AI. The problem is, of course, that that single reference may be critical. So, 3 examples of agents built using our platform, all relatively simple, all built by one person in hours. Let's now go back a few steps and talk about the what, the why, the how, and the what next for your project. So starting with the what then. This video is aimed for GenAI practitioners, so I won't dwell on any explanations, but I will rattle through a couple of definitions just to make sure we're all talking about the same thing. Let's quickly start with this term agents. When we talk about agents, we're simply talking about software that 1, interacts using natural language, 2, has specific knowledge relevant to the user or the use case, and 3, can complete tasks. The way in which these agents interact using natural language is generally through the use of a large language model, like GPT-4o or Claude or whatever. The way in which we train these agents is primarily using retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. And that is simply the process by which you retain the LLM's understanding of your intent, but separate it from its knowledge base. You then replace that knowledge base with documents that you chunk up and place on a vector database, which allows the agent to retrieve chunks related to the user query and then reformulate those chunks into an answer to the question. Some key points here. First of all, size and quantity of chunks has a massive impact on quality. Second, volume of chunked up documents has a massive impact on the probability of the correct chunks being retrieved. And the third point, large language models are probability engines. So the more probabilities you make them run, the more quality will degrade. That means that processing too many chunks, receiving too many instructions, or being asked to return responses that are too long will all negatively impact quality and consistency. So, we're starting to see some of the factors that drive quality in agents. And for most people watching this video, quality and consistency will be the number 1 issue. But solve that, and then there are a few more waiting for you. Here are the key barriers most people I speak to are facing using GenAI to deliver sustainable business value. First of all, quality. We've just been talking about it, and for most people, it's just not good enough, often enough. Secondly, usability. It's not solving the specific problem I have. Third, trust. Well, it looks okay, but how do I really know? Next is control. If I do actually get any of this going, there are going to be loads of these. How do I keep them maintained, observed, and managed for cost? And then finally, wrapping around all of that is security and compliance. Is the data I want to use just too sensitive for any public large language model? Am I going to jeopardize any of our accreditations? Remember, behind the hype, this is just data in software. So all the core principles behind GDPR, ISO 27001 still apply. Am I being proportionate, transparent, and accurate with my data? And can I demonstrate this? So how do we deal with these issues, and how should you? Let's work through this by building a practical example of a high-quality multi-agent workflow together while dealing with each of the issues that I've just mentioned as we go. Firstly then, quality. I've mentioned it before and I make no apologies for repeating it. Large language models are probability engines, so the secret to quality is to build small and precise. Each agent should have the right large language model for that specific task and the smallest possible number of instructions, the smallest possible amount of context to explore, and it should be retrieving the most precise possible bundle of chunks. Being vague kills quality, so be precise. A quick example of this. This agent was built to guide voters on political manifestos. It's trained on the manifestos of all the parties. It doesn't have very clear instructions and uses a generic chunking strategy of retrieving 3 medium-sized chunks from across all of the documents. When I ask it about tax, it retrieves the nearest chunks it can find. And in this case, all 3 come from the blue manifesto, so we don't get any information from the other 2. Remember, for a GenAI agent, proximity of chunks to the query is the only valuable thing. It has no interest in variety of sources. In contrast, this agent has been given precise instructions and is only trained on one manifesto. When I ask it about tax, it's super clear. The problem is that it can only answer on behalf of one party. So how do we make it broader and more usable without losing quality? This takes us to the second of our problems. How do I make these things usable? The answer is chaining them together in workflows. If you remember, my single agent trained on all of the manifestos was pretty poor and got muddled. So I've now built 3 agents, each trained on one party's manifesto. I've then fused them together through another fusion agent. And now when I ask the same question about tax, I get a much better answer. So I'm pretty happy with this answer, but how do I know it's good enough? Has it made anything up? Has it missed anything out? Does it really answer the question? What was the agreed standard for any of those things anyway? And to answer these questions, you need 2 things. First, you need to have agreed evaluation criteria and standards. And second, you need to be able to track quality against those standards. Here, you can see we're using AI on AI evaluation to measure our manifesto agent against faithfulness. Is it sticking to what the context says? Completeness, does it answer the question? And coherence, does it make sense? Against each of those criteria, it is being evaluated by an independent large language model so we can start building the trust we need. We augment this AI on AI evaluation by building in human feedback into the same platform. This gives us clarity across what both humans and large language models think of our agents' output. So we've delivered quality through having lots of agents, usability by connecting them, and trust through detailed evaluation. That's all great. But now we've got a lot of moving parts. How do we make changes without knock-on effects? How do we monitor usage? How do we swap out large language models when performance or costs change? Our strong recommendation for this is to use common infrastructure across all of your agents. Obviously, we have access to our platform, but you might want to use an alternative or indeed build your own. You can see here, if I want to change the large language model or the instructions or the number or size of chunks, I can do that super quickly, and then I can track the differences that this makes to quality. This common infrastructure also gives us the peace of mind that every query, response, and retrieved chunk is tracked and audited. This is the level of control that we recommend you get to if you want to deploy generative AI agents at any kind of scale. The final point to cover is security. And this is not just security of your data, but also security of your reputation, your IP, your accreditations, and your competitive advantage. And the first thing to say up front is that the biggest risk to your organization is almost certainly not implementing GenAI badly, but not implementing it at all. Generative AI may not be coming for your job, but competitors who can use it well certainly are. The next thing to say is that whatever technology you use to build, manage, evaluate, and control your agent workforce, it will have to be deployable in the environment you use, cloud, on-prem, or completely air-gapped. As an aside, our large language model agnostic architecture means that we can deploy completely air-gapped solutions. If you're working in particularly secure environments, it's worth thinking about how you can do the same. The next thing on security is to think about the new surface area of attack that generative AI offers. You must have some kind of control on what inputs are allowed in and what outputs are allowed out. Malicious prompting works because GenAI is a probability engine, and if you ask things enough times, there's always a risk it will answer. We use natural language guardrails to augment the security provided by RAG and our evaluation process. These prevent malicious prompting from going in and prevent restricted data types from coming out. They're a good safety net, and we'd recommend them. The final thing to flag is the compliance piece of security and compliance. You may believe that your generative AI solutions use data proportionately, transparently, and accurately, but can you demonstrate this? Without the kind of micro-agent architecture and full audit capability that we've outlined, it will be very difficult to deploy these solutions live without compromising your compliance with the various standards that we're all familiar with. So that's it. That's our story. And that's what we recommend for you too. Deliver quality and usability through lots of precise agents chained together. Deliver security, compliance, and control by connecting them, evaluating them, and managing them through a transparent and fully audited shared agent infrastructure. If you've already built this infrastructure for your business, that is brilliant, and we would love to hear from you and share some thoughts and war stories on what went well and what's been harder. We're really keen to learn from others, and we're very open, and we hope you can learn from us too. If you haven't already built this agent management infrastructure and you'd like to know a little more about our platform, then please get in touch for a chat. Like everyone, we're still learning, and there is no such thing as a wasted conversation. I hope this has been helpful, and please just drop me an email if there's anything more you'd like to know. Thank you very much for watching.